All right. Okay, let's open with a word of prayer. As our Heavenly Father is everything to us, and we want His guidance. All right, so let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful. We thank you, we praise you, and we just lift you up, Father, for what you have done for us and what you will continue to do in our lives. Be with those who are yet on their way. We pray that you will guide them and shield them. We pray in your Son's name. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. So our subject matter today is the ultimate causes of heart attack. We dealt with one in the last session we had. And now we're going to deal with the next one. Okay. We're going to deal with the other cause. Let me move this thing out of the way. You know, that sidebar. Okay, let's see. All right, we'll go ahead. So the ultimate causes of heart attack, we're looking at the urea. And as we go through this, you will see. Okay. All right. Are you seeing my screen, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So as we mentioned in the last presentation, cardiovascular disease, a group of diseases affecting your heart and blood vessels. These diseases can affect one or many parts of your heart and or blood vessels. A person may be symptomatic, physically experiencing symptoms, or asymptomatic, not feeling anything at all. So when we think about medically cardiovascular disease, they think about the narrowing of the blood vessels in your heart or other organs throughout your body. They think about heart and blood vessel problems that may be present from birth, heart valves that aren't working right, irregular heart rhythm. So these are some of the things science think about. I'm going to focus on an aspect that's not mentioned here expressly, which we say is the second cause of heart attack. The leading cause of death worldwide is cardiovascular disease. Almost half of adults in the US have some form of cardiovascular disease. It affects people of all ages, sex, ethnicity, socioeconomic levels. And they say that 1 in 3 women die from cardiovascular disease. So it is a real problem. It's not a make-believe problem. It is real. So we covered cause number 1, and we're going to review what we talked about. To review this, we're going to look at some questions, and I would like for you to unmute and give the answer that you know based upon our previous presentation. What is the first of the 2 causes of heart attacks? The clock is ticking. You all forgot from the last presentation, or I didn't do a good job.
Was it a lack of water?
Huh?
Lack of water?
Okay, it is lack of water, but there's something that happens when the water is lacking.
Is it uric acid?
No, we're going in that direction today. You use it in your food every day.
Salt.
Salt, that's right. High salt. Okay, remember we talked about that? Now, what age groups are affected by this high salt?
All of us, right?
Yeah, in the last presentation, I show you from babies, they're having some effects on children. They're showing cracks and damage to their arterial wall. All right. Now, how do this substance affect the arterial wall? How does it affect the arterial walls? Still review. I know you all didn't expect a test so early.
It weakens them or hardens them.
Okay, you're getting close, but this high salt does something specifically to the smooth muscles of the body. And since the arteries are lined with smooth muscles, um, you know, it damaged those arteries. But what did we say?
You said the narrowing as you're seeing in this picture right there.
Mm. Mhm.
I'm cheating.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an open book, but that's the result of what's done to the arterial wall. Remember, it has something to do with cracks and lesions.
Mm.
Cracks and lesions develop inside of the weakened blood vessel walls because that high salt dehydrate the blood vessel walls. So it loses the elasticity. Okay. So it doesn't expand and contract with the heart as it should. So that becomes problematic. And nature builds cholesterol as a repair factor to kind of heal that off, smooth that off, you know, in an attempt to repair. But the problem is it overshoots and someone dies of a heart attack or a stroke. Now, why do this substance become elevated in the tissue fluid? Why does this substance become elevated in the tissue fluids? Ah, okay. From now on, there will be a quiz.
Yeah, we need to get the quiz ahead of time. So is it because they're just not having enough fluids?
What kind of fluid?
Water, especially.
Water. They are not drinking enough water, so therefore the salts become concentrated in their tissue fluids. And that salt being concentrated, crystallize, dehydrate the arterial walls. It weakens the muscle, the smooth muscles in the bowel as well, um, and other places in the body. Okay. All right. And what's that last question there?
To drink enough water.
Okay. But the question is, what is the remedy?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to drink water. So high salt is the number one cause of heart attacks in the world, which is due to insufficient amount of water, pure soft water. Okay, we covered it. We referenced Dr. Matthias Rath's book. Um, we talked about, when the cracks and lesions develop, nature builds cholesterol molecule and sends it to the area and the smooth muscles to repair the damage caused by the high salt. And as a result, arteries or vein become clogged. This is due to high salt. Okay, salts are electrolytes as well. Without salt or electrolytes, the current would not flow. And interestingly, over the top 6 inches of the soil, there's current flowing from the north magnetic pole to the south. If that current was not flowing, no plant would grow. You could plant the seed in the ground all you want. But that electrical energy flowing over the surface of the earth, in order for it to flow, and this is another point, it needs electrolyte, it needs salts in the soil, okay, in order for your plant to really get the benefit of that electrical current. Okay, so here we have it. It's a heart attack or could be a stroke on the account of persons not listening to nature. All right, so now let's look at the second cause for this condition. In this example, this is a chemistry, perfect health, and we have the various factors in the equation. So salts are necessary. You see there that 6.5. See, it's very necessary. If your salt goes too low, too long, then nature will have to pull conductivity material from one place to put in the area that's most important. Okay? And so numbness would result. So let's say the salt, as we discussed, was 30 to 75. There's increased danger, and the damaging effect of the salt will continue until, with proper age, the person gets the heart attack. The second cause is high urea. Increased risk from, let's say, 24 to 30 on that urea scale. This is the second cause. I'm going to explain how this here will result in a heart attack. So an artery could be clogged, a heart attack, but it doesn't have to be clogged with the urea. All right, we'll see what the urea does. In review, we talk about salts. Salts are electrolytes, and some of the salts are metal, protein, and then we have chloride salts. You're familiar with sodium chloride, potassium chlorides, and so on. But the one we're going to look at are the protein salts, ammonia nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen. Now, the protein salts, as mentioned, are your ammonia and your nitrate. And looking at the nitrate, let's see where it comes from. Your nitrate nitrogen will come from the food. All right? It comes from the food. The kind of nitrogen in the food coming in is your nitrate nitrogen, which is an anionic form of nitrogen. And so we can get that nitrogen when our cells break down or as our cells lose energy or when they are exchanged. Now, the issue is once the cells are exchanged, the salts, in this case, the nitrogen that are released from the location, if it stays in the blood for 3 days or more, it will become soluble. It turns to a salt, that the one that does the damage. If it stays in the blood, once it's released from its location for longer than 3 days, it becomes soluble salt, which does all of what I will tell you about with the salt. Remember, I mentioned about your delta cells and your omega cells, right? You remember that? And probably our first and second lecture. Well, we mentioned that alpha cell is a perfect cell, but when the perfect cell has lost so much energy, then it becomes a delta cell, at which time the message is communicated to the liver to build new cells to replace these cells. Once they lose so much energy, there's only one thing that nature does is build a new cell in its place. If the nutrient is not available for nature to build that cell, then that delta cell, maybe the kidney cell or maybe the prostate cell, is going to be retained in the location, still waiting for that new cell to be rebuilt. In the process of time, it keeps being swollen up with moisture as it goes through a deteriorating process. And it continues to be swollen until it breaks connection with the nerve and becomes a dead cell, which is an omega cell. All right? So whilst they are the delta cell, because delta cell, if they're replaced in that state, then the nitrogen, that's the nitrogen that we're talking about that will do the effect of the nitrogen that I am talking about if the person is not drinking enough water to flush out the salts within 3 days. You follow me? All right, we're
Yeah.
together?
Yes.
Okay. That's very important. Now, with the omega cells, the nitrogen in the omega cell goes off as heat and electrical energy, part of which we is our body heat, that we give off. So that nitrogen, it goes out for the most part. And vitamin C goes out with it, by the way. All right. Now, and your omega cell is what developed to your cancer cells. It's a dead cell, it's a decaying cell, it stays in its location and it just decay and rotten like rotten flesh. That's your cancer. Okay. All right, so lack of mineral causes delta cell to be retained until they become omega or dead cells. Here it is again. A new cell is built into the place where the problem once existed, as the old cell is thrown out and a new one is built in its place. The delta cell was replaced. It never became an omega cell. So once again, when you look at your urine and you see all those particles floating around in your urine, all the visible particles that you can see, those are part of cells that were exchanged, delta cells and perhaps some omega cells that is being thrown out through the kidneys. All right. Now, the other nitrogen, which is your ammonia nitrogen, this is the nitrogen came in from the food as anionic or nitrate form. The liver works on it and convert that nitrogen to a cationic form of nitrogen, or which is the amino acids. All right, we're talking about the amino acids. Protein break down to amino acids, and those amino acids, when they come into the liver, they are the nitrate nitrogen. But if the liver is working properly and doing what it's supposed to do, it must convert those anionic nitrogen to a cationic nitrogen, where it will then go to other areas and finish worked on and eventually become the replacement that builds new cells. So these are the two forms of nitrogen there that we're looking at. All right. So now we see in the equation the two forms of nitrogen. One of the issue is when you have a very high protein diet, as in excess protein, two things occur. One, in excess, okay, so you got excess amount of nitrogen floating around in your body. Two, if your digestion is poor, so that nitrogen that goes in is really not usable. So you got two sources of nitrogen there that will create problem. So the body, as it converts it to urea, the urea goes high, and we are measuring that urea being high. That causes the effect, the blood to be thickened and several other things. But it's the thickening of the blood that will result in the heart going into a spasm. Not only does it thicken the blood, but that nitrate nitrogen will especially stimulate the heart muscle, stimulate the heart to beat hard. It's pounding. You know, typically your physician listen to your heart. It'll tell you you have a strong heart, but that's a heart that's getting ready to collapse because it's working too hard. It's being overstimulated because the ureas or nitrogen is too high. Okay. Now we can get high protein as well when we go nuts on nuts. Okay. We do get high protein and the same factors occur. We end up getting excessive amount of protein, all right, which is your nitrate nitrogen coming in from the food. And if it's in excess, we have excess nitrogen from that viewpoint. But when you add to that the weakness of your gastric juice, your inability to properly process that nitrogen, that protein, then you have protein floating around that wasn't properly taken care of. So that's going to create problem in the bloodstream as well. Not to mention when you concentrate it down into nut butter and you just go to town with the nut butter. And what makes things worse is that the person is not drinking water. So everything is getting more concentrated. Are we together?
Got it.
You
Yes.
getting it? Okay. Where are the children in the house?
Yeah, I hear.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Very good. I hear one. Is there any other? All right. So here's the chemistry which we looked at. Okay. What's going on over there? Okay.
We are here.
Okay. All right. Okay, my cursor went over there. Okay, all right. So here we are looking at the chemistry situation again. In this example, we have, of course, you see the salt being a 45C. Okay, the salt as being the number one cause, which we discussed last time. The urea as cause number two. And these are both salts. Okay. They're both salts. How do we know that that high protein, that excess protein coming in from both sources was in the bloodstream for longer than 3 days? Because you look at the salt and you know they weren't drinking water. Okay. So they're not drinking water. So naturally, that salt is a soluble nitrogen that overstimulates the heart, causing it to beat hard. And that bottom number, the ammonia nitrogen, thickens the blood, is hard on the kidney. So persons usually, once it's above a 10, will usually be having discomfort in their back over their kidney because, that's a lot of work. It's too thick. Okay. So essentially, when we look at the ureas being too high, as it increases, the likelihood for a heart attack increases also. So we're looking at minor pectoris heart attack. We call it pectoris, call the other one angina. Dr. Reams coined his own term. He wasn't in submission to everything that medicine says. He was a researcher, a scientist. He had his own lab when physicians in the South didn't know what a lab was. He was at that time able to take the ashes from burnt building and figure out how many men, how many women, based upon frequency, was burnt in the fire. Okay, they utilize him for that kind of science. So this is his science. It don't sound like medical science, but it is right on, it is true, and the proof is in the pudding. Okay, 24 up to 27, we're looking at a major situation that's getting ready to take place. 27 through 30, that's a fatal condition there. Person can and will, the heart will go into a spasm. It doesn't go higher than 30. You see what I'm saying? On the urea reading, the total of top and bottom. So if we're looking at children, the effect may not be as fast because they're younger. The older we are and we have this kind of number, it's an imminent danger. See what I'm saying? So that excess nitrogen thickens the blood and overstimulate the heart. And we see this every fall of the year, which we enjoy. As the air cools, the nitrogen concentration in the air increases. It penetrates the sap of the plant, and as a result, it thickens the sap so the sap can no longer flow to the tiny vessels of the leaves. So we enjoy watching the trees experience heart attacks, if you may, or, the same thing that's going on. As the nutrient factor decreases in the leaves, we enjoy watching the color change. But that's what is going on. It's being starved for nutrient because the sap gets too thick. As the air begins to warm up in the spring now, we see nature will begin to bloom. All right? That's the same thing that's going on. Typically, when the ureas are high, you will see an excessive amount of foam in the urine. Not only with the color, we'll see more color. We can sometimes smell the ammonia in the urine itself when we go to the bathroom. Of course, typically in the mornings, first thing we wake up, the urine is more concentrated, but it's also a fact that most heart attacks take place in that morning hours between the early morning through to about 12 p.m. I got some studies on that. I just didn't include them. And that's really what's going on. Medical science look at different things, but the reason is that last heavy protein meal that the person eat the evening before is going to send some nitrogen in their system, and that nitrogen could be the last straw that break the camel's back. You see what I'm saying? They're not drinking water, so everything is getting more and more concentrated. So what better time for the heart to go into a spasm than during those early morning hours? classic time. Yeah. So here's some of the signs of high ureas. Number one factor is that the urea thickens the blood. Number two, it overstimulates the heart. These are the two primary factors we're looking at. Okay. And these are some of the symptoms that person may realize when that urea is high. Because the circulation is impaired, you can have an impact upon the memory, concentration as well, because there's not enough oxygen flowing to the brain. All right. But fatigue is one of those that persons usually could be experiencing. The higher the urea, the more fatigued the person could be. All right. And sluggish in the morning when you wake up after sleeping a whole night, you feel like sleeping another night back to back. Sluggish in the morning, that's indicator that the ureas are too high. If you listen to when you lay down on the bed and you can hear your heart pounding, that is another sign the heart beats hard. Okay, it pounds. And then I remember a few years ago, there was this family, and they have a young boy, and he had to go to school. They'd have to start waking him up 2 hours before they get him out of bed. The little chap urea was so high, he slept so hard, he could hardly wake up. You see what I'm saying? When you wake up in the morning, you should be able just to roll out of bed. Okay? If you're sluggish and tired when you wake up, it could be that urea is high. Of course, low sugar can make you tired and energyless when you wake up in the morning as well, if you have that situation. An excessive amount of foam in the urine indicate a urea that's high that does not dissipate when you put it in the commode. That's an indication that you need to change or do some things differently. Are you with me? Also, your left arm pain, that typical pain, that's when you would get that left arm pain, which you may or may not get. Typically, that's when you get that left arm pain when you go under exertion, because it's an issue. The heart is struggling. Okay. So once again, with the thickened blood and the heart being overstimulated, there's another condition that occur in babies. They call it crib death. That's one of the main culprit with crib death that they're still trying to find. The mother's urea is so high that it goes to the baby and it thickens that baby's blood. And as a result, that child's heart can quit and does quit if that urea get high enough. You see what I'm saying? So mothers need to be careful to make sure they get enough water, make sure they do things to make sure their protein factor is not excessive. All right. So the critical factor here with the poor digestion or the excess protein, if the person is drinking enough water, they can cover a lot of situations. A lot of evil can be remedied with water. That's why water is the most frequent thing. The most frequent question I ask people is, how much water are you drinking? You have a headache, how much water? Your stomach ache, how much water? You have a eye problem, how much water? Everything is affected by the amount of water we drink, literally. See what I'm saying? It's time to drink my water. All right. So the purer the water, the better it is. And most of the time when the ureas are high like that, usually the salt is up there too. You know, they go together. But the salt may not have done sufficient amount of damage to cause the artery to be clogged up at that point. But yet still, if the urea is high enough and gets high enough, then it will cause the heart to go into a spasm and get too thick. The heart can't function. Okay? And remember, we shared this in the last presentation. Loma Linda University conducted a study on the effects of water and cardiovascular disease. The study, Water, Other Fluids, and Fatal Coronary Heart Disease, followed participants for 6 years. They found that women who drank what? More than 5 8-ounce glasses of water a day were 41% less likely to die from heart attacks during the study period than those who drank 2 or fewer glasses. In high water consuming men, that risk decreased by 54%. So yes, when I speak of water and in this relationship, they got research out there that showed that, but this is a complete science. We knew this from in the 1930s, from before medical science understood these things. So as a result, Dr. Rehm challenged the US and in some lectures, so if they want to get rid of all heart attack in the United States, they can get rid of it in 2 weeks, completely gone. Okay, so if Dr. Neil Nedley says if a person is not drinking enough water, hematocrit rises, thus increasing the risk of heart attacks and stroke. Also, lack of water causes the red blood cells to be less flexible, which increases their tendencies to clot. So they got bits and pieces of the situation. The bottom line is lack of water will sure make that high protein diet your death sentence. In this example here, as we can see there, that salt, of course, but that urea there, as our number 2 cause is when the urea is that high, you got high urea, you got high salt, you got high sugars, and you got high cell debris, 4M+++. That's a bunch of particles floating around in the blood. High sugar, high the cells to cluster together to cellular agglutination. And on top of that, you got the urea, which thickens the blood. This person is a walking time bomb. If they're older, it's more of an urgent situation that need to be dealt with. Okay, so we got the salts. They're both salts. If one don't get you, the other one will certainly get you. It's just a matter of time. This is science. This is not guess. This is not based upon statistics or population average. This is chemistry. So the remedy for this situation, remedy number 1 is water. Drinking lots of pure, soft water all throughout the day, that will avert the high salt that accumulates for one reason or another. It will also flush out the excess urea and not allow it to thicken the blood. Water, I told you, covers a multitude of evil. The next thing that is good that we use to reduce the urea when it is dangerously high is dolomite, which is magnesium, and it has calcium in it, but we use it primarily for the magnesium oxide, which it contains. Magnesium release excess nitrogen unit for unit, pound for pound in agriculture as well as in our bodies. So we use magnesium to release the excess nitrogen. So with their meal, they would normally take that dolomite with their meal and help to keep that urea from elevating too high. Okay. There's also systemic enzymes, which are pretty good, like next slide brings some up. And during this time, person need to be on a light diet. They can't be on a meat, steak, and potato, and a bunch of nuts and nut butter. That time, when they're trying to remedy the situation, those things got to leave their diet because they can't handle it anyway. You see what I'm saying? Okay. And remember, we mentioned children cannot digest meat before they are 12, even if you chew it up and give it to them. Okay. They cannot digest nuts before they are 8 years old. Okay. So their diet would typically need to be lighter, easier to digest, low protein diet while they're trying to remedy this situation. It's quite easy to lower that urea. It doesn't take months. It doesn't even take weeks. The proper consuming of water will flush out that excess nitrogen and bring it out of the danger level. Okay. Here are some of the systemic enzymes: serrapeptase, nattokinase, bromelain. These are proteolytic enzymes, so they would naturally help to reduce that excess nitrogen, and they would prevent abnormal clotting. Okay. So the key is learning how and when to drink water. We always talk about this, how and when we're going to drink water. When is the best time? Okay. Up on the horizon, everything is concentrated. We hadn't been drinking water during the night, so things are concentrated. Now, so in the morning, we can drink a larger amount, okay? First thing when we wake up, you can put lemon there if you want. You can make it warm water. You can do whatever you want to do, but you can drink generally a larger amount first thing. And then we drink the rest of the water between the meals throughout the day. Maximum of 4 ounces up to 15 minutes before a meal. And a maximum of 4 ounces, minimum of 30 minutes after the meal. And it's best at room temperature. All right. I'm not saying to go drink you a quart of water 30 minutes after your meal. That would not be good. All right. Because usually anyway, it's better to drink small quantity more frequently throughout the day. But the idea that you don't drink water until 2 hours after your meal, it is a death sentence when you look at it correctly, because there are many hours that you would not be able to drink water. And that just takes you where you need to go faster. Okay, it's better to drink smaller quantity frequently throughout the day. Pure soft water will do the best job. And usually your distilled water is your softest water, and water, other waters may be soft. The less you have in your water, the better. Distilled water is just the cream of the crop. You cannot get more than that. It is high energy water. It's better for our health. It will clean the arteries, flush the system faster than anything else. All right? Okay. Now, I think we will open for some questions. I know you were a very good audience.
Peter, what did you say again about how long before the meal should you drink the water?
Minimum of 15 minutes before the meal.
But a small amount.
Not more than 4 ounces.
Okay. You know, I just love this talk about how important water is. I firmly believe in water for all kinds of illnesses. And because, you know, mainly because in the Bible, doesn't it say Yeshua is the living water?
Absolutely.
And we can rely on that
Mhm.
God gave us to
Yeah,
heal with the hot cold therapies and the
right.
cold plunges and just all kinds of things. So I'm happy to hear that, you know, drinking a lot of water can minimize the risk for heart attack. I actually did not know that.
hmm Actually, the Savior couldn't have used a better analogy than to use water, because water is the staff of life. I mean, water is the universal solvent. It is the catalyst in which all chemical reaction take place. If you don't have a fluid medium, you don't have much of a reaction taking place. So indeed, water, every health condition is affected by water. It's so simple. It's amazing. There was a medical doctor who wrote a book, The Body's Many Cry for Water. And he connect water, dehydration, with almost everything that you can be plagued with. All right. Any more question?
Yes, I have a question. So
Okay.
my question is this, is if from what I recall, when you do have distilled water, there are no minerals in there, right?
Right.
So it's a perfect medium because it's neutral. So therefore, if you are not ill, where would you get your minerals? From the food? Because you gotta.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You
All
get your
right.
mineral. We eat our food to get the minerals, not the water. All we get from water, all we're supposed to get is H2O, nothing else. The fact that this
So
this
go
the
ahead.
water is a high energy water. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sister Shirley.
So if you're drinking spring water, I'm then going to assume now that it has minerals in it because it
Right.
has passed through the
Right.
earth.
Mhm.
But you're not sick and you're drinking that mineral water. That can disrupt your body chemistry, is what you're saying?
It depends. It depends on how much minerals, how heavy the minerals are that it contains. I wouldn't necessarily worry about it unless we have indication that, you got some heavy mineral, the water is hard. Hard water, now that's not a story.
Right. So that's the part I was coming to. I was just clearing that first part because if your system is compromised, too high a salt or whatever, the alkalinity or acidity,
Mhm.
I could see that the spring water, the natural spring from the well or wherever,
Yeah,
could interfere with your progress or lack of
it
it
could. It could. It could. It certainly
because it's
could.
not neutral. It's either making it worse because it's adding more. I don't know.
It could add the wrong kind of calcium
Okay.
than what you need for your chemistry.
Okay. That's how I
So,
like to think of it in terms of though.
yeah,
I don't understand the high energy, low energy part, but maybe one day I'll get that part.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Thank you very
Okay, I
much.
I would like to ask something, Brother Peter.
Sure.
I always heard that just drinking plain water like that, it just passes through your system. It's like the cells doesn't really absorb the water. So it's best sometime if it's even one time for the day you're drinking water to put a pinch of pink salt in it. What do you think
Okay.
about that?
Okay. One of the reasons why it just passes through, because people are drinking a lot more at one time. So they
Okay.
drink 8 ounces one time or more. And
Because that's
depend,
what we were told to drink.
yeah, and it just passes right on through, especially if a person has low sugar. when you have low sugar and you drink a lot more water, it lowers your sugar. And the minute you drink it, you go to the bathroom,
Yes.
to get rid of it and come out nice and clear. So if you drink your water in smaller quantities, then it will stay with you. I know some people say put some salt in there.
Yeah, pink salt. They say the pink Himalayan salt. Just put a pinch. You don't have to make the water salt. You just put a pinch of the pink Himalayan salt in the water.
Yeah, as long as you're not running with high salt, as long as you're a frequent water drinker, so you know that your salts are not going to be high. But if you are not a frequent water drinker, and that salt that you add to your water could further undermine your situation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the key is getting your water, drink your water.
So what's the difference between Celtic salt and Himalayan? Some people say use Celtic salt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people say Celtic salt, either way, the same principle applies. See, that's one way to handle what goes on in many people when they drink water. So by putting a little salt in there, it it prevents it from going out immediately. But in reality, person just need to drink water correctly.
Okay.
The Celtic salt, from my understanding, has more iodine.
More
that we need.
minerals.
Okay. All right.
What about a Berkey, Peter? We have a Berkey filter and we filter our water. Does that filter out the minerals, or do the minerals stay in there when you have a charcoal filter?
Well, it doesn't remove the minerals, but hopefully the water wasn't that bad to start with. Berkey is a good filter system.
Okay.
The key is to drink water. Any water is better than no water. You see what I'm saying? If you're putting water into your body, it's going to prevent you from having your heart attack and from your stroke, from your high urea and so on. It's going to prevent it. But if you're not drinking any water because this water you don't have and you only have this one, and you decide, well, I'm going to wait until I get this water here. No, that's not good. Just drink water. Get the best water you can. Water is soft in degrees. Distill is your softest, and all other water based upon the substance that's in the water is harder, is lower energy, and so on in degree. Your distill is your premium water. Steam distilled, that is, not deionized distilled water.
So I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my next question. Can you make your own distilled water, and how do you do that?
Well, nature also makes it.
Because I like to think in terms of when we can't buy ourselves.
Yeah, you can boil your water and catch the steam, let the steam condenses and roll off into another container, and you got distilled water. The steam condenses, that's your distilled water.
You have special equipment for that, because
They do have equipment for that.
Okay. And you say the best way is what? The what?
Steam distilled.
Steam distilled versus
deionized distilled.
Deionized. Okay.
And rainwater is very good too.
Rainwater is distilled water.
Yeah.
Same process. Only thing, we don't know all the stuff that the guys are putting in the air and all that kind of contaminant.
Yeah,
But
I normally wait until after it's been raining and washed away everything, and then I will decide to get some.
All right. I asked Sister Pamela about that. I asked her how she gets water on top of the mountain where she is. And she will tell us. Sister Pamela, how do you get your water on top of the mountain in Belize? You can unmute. Is she here? Okay. It's rainwater she uses. That's her
But that's
source of
off.
water.
Is that off of her roof? The metal, the galvanized roof,
Yeah,
aluminum roof?
off of
So
her roof.
it's collecting something along the way though,
She got
from
a
that
filter. She got a
material.
filter. She got a
Oh,
filter that filters it as it goes in her vat.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
If you distill the water, did you say you have to put minerals back in to the
No,
water? Nope. Okay.
no.
Okay, good. That's easy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any more question?
Oh yeah, you were saying that the nuts, because it's so high in protein, that children should not drink it. I was wondering, can they have nut milk?
Yes, they can have nut milk
Okay.
strained. You know, these are things that we didn't know, but it does have the effect upon the children's health, not to mention meat. And some people run the risk of trying to give their babies meat. It's just it's just a time bomb waiting for explosion. Okay. Any more question? So we understand the two primary causes of a heart attack are high salt and high urea. And sometimes another cause when you ask a weak heart to do the work of a strong heart, the heart can fail and go into a spasm as well in that respect. All right. So if there is no more question,
I have a question.
okay.
What do you mean not to give children meat? They say if you crush it up or puree it, you can let it soft and they can swallow that.
Yeah, but when they swallow it, they're not going to digest it. They got to have a strong enough gastric juice, hydrochloric acid, to get the energy from the meat. So they could puree it and they could do all of that, but the child is not going to get it.
Mm. Oh.
See what I'm saying?
Is that just beef or chicken or fish or just any?
Beef, chicken, fish, nuts, nut butter, the whole 9 yards.
Oh,
See?
I see. Oh, okay.
So it's just see when we eat food, when we eat protein from a chicken or from a fish or from even the nuts, when that goes to the liver has to restructure those amino acids so it no longer is recognized as fish or chicken or nut amino acid.
You said I could.
Okay, in order for it to move out, to leave out of the liver. So that's why I told you the nitrate nitrogen from the food is converted in the liver as an ammoniacal nitrogen in that protein or amino acid structure as it leaves the liver going
Right.
up.
Yeah, Brother Peter, that's my friend Barbara that came on the line. She wasn't there for the whole program, so she got a
Okay,
part of
that's
it.
all right. She got the opportunity. She can ask any question she wants.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm
What
just
what
Go
about
ahead.
children having eggs?
Okay, when you say, I think that's probably somewhat different.
Okay.
I think that's probably somewhat different. I'm not exactly sure. Eggs are, they say, most biological or something like that.
Okay.
So you're saying that then fruits and nuts would not sorry, fruits and veggies would be the best.
Yeah,
Grains.
yeah.
Yes.
And, we get
Simpler,
protein.
easier to digest.
Things that are easier to digest. Sick people need to eat food that are easy to digest. Person should not be sick and lying in bed and eating all kind of heavy food like they're working a full shift.
Right. I
See,
agree.
the diet should change according to our age. So when we get much older and weaker, although it doesn't have to be that we're weaker, then we need to make changes in our diet as well.
I hear what you're saying because I remember reading that, say, a simple thing like having an upset where you can't keep the food down, regurgitating it, right?
Yeah,
It's best to have a light broth and small
right.
amounts. So I could see what you're saying.
Same thing with acid reflux.
Right.
Gastric juice is just plainly too weak. It just sit in there. Can't do anything. Body can't use it, so it just sits there and create problem. But they will try to block all the rest of the acid as a treatment. All right. Any more before we close? You've been a wonderful audience. All right. Well,
What do you
let's
mean not too many hard questions is what you
not
sorry,
too
I'm
many
just
hard questions at
I'm
all.
teasing. Okay.
Y'all have been very good. No
Or
hard
you being
questions.
or maybe you being very good.
Nah, that's not how it goes.
Oh,
So
okay.
We
let's,
should pass the test next time, right?
yeah, next time you all ought to pass the test, right?
Oh, okay.
Very good. And let's close off with prayer. And yeah, let's close off with prayer.